I don't think we could do that again.
No, but that's the beauty of it. It's got a human feel to it in this sea of technology.
As a curious person, it's always how to make things better for your students.
Or the ways in which AI can redefine the new and exciting part of what AI can do for us.
Yeah, it's just amazing to hear about what you're doing in this space.
And thank you all for being so flexible. I really wanted to just emphasize that and say thank you.
Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Min and I'm a Senior Learning Experience Designer at the University of Sydney in Australia. So I'm really excited today because I have a group of amazing learning designers and we're going to have a little chat about how we've been exploring AI in our work, looking at practical ways to help us brainstorm ideas and strengthen the learning design process. But before we dive into the conversation, let's meet our team of learning designers. Now, can each of you quickly tell me your name, your role, and where you work? Hi, Mark.
Hello, thank you. My name's Mark Parry, and I am a learning designer. I do a lot of freelance work. So I've been doing stuff at UTS lately, and I also teach learning design at UTS. But I've worked across all different sectors over the years, and I'm happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Naseema Kennedy. I am the Head of Learning Experience and Design at Australian Institute of Higher Education in Sydney.
Cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Eleanor Bilby. I'm a learning technologist at Curtin University in Western Australia. I work with academics to help them better understand the tech that's available to them and make learning resources to support this. But before that, I had a background in UX and UI, so really invested in the whole experience of learning.
Hi, my name is Sushumna, goes by Sush. I've been in the design thinking industry, working as a human-centered design professional last 13 years. Now currently working in Deakin University as assistant professor and also academic researcher. So I have been diving deep into how AI can change different areas of design thinking and research, or even creating great experiences, learning experiences for my students. That's a bit about me. Thanks.
Fantastic. My name's Dan Lawrence. Hi, everyone. I'm a senior learning designer at Melbourne University and have been part of a project to roll out new online courses for many other universities as well. So, yeah, keen to explore this fascinating area of AI.
Thanks so much, Dan. So as you can see, we have a really diverse range of experience in this room, and so I'm really excited to hear about how everyone's using AI. So at this point, we'll be sharing our Miro board with all the ideas on how we brainstormed and came up with the themes that we're going to talk about today. So I will kick things off with something I've been working on. So I'm a learning designer in the library, and in that role, I work across really diverse teams. And one thing I noticed was that educational frameworks such as Universal Design for Learning and Bloom's taxonomy were really overwhelming and difficult for people to unpack if they didn't have an educational background. So based on this challenge that I discovered in my team, I decided to create an AI assistant that helps to create learning experiences. So I built this in Cogniti. This is a tool that's developed by University of Sydney educators. So I'm just going to share my screen right now and show you a quick demonstration of this. So the AI assistant will begin by asking the user 5 short questions. So the first question is about who the learners are. The second question is, what should the learners achieve? So these are your learning outcomes. The third question is about what kind of learning experience could work to achieve this learning outcome. And if you're not sure, no problem at all. The assistant will suggest a few options that might work. The fourth question is, what is the format of the learning experience and the teaching approach that you're taking? And finally, what are the barriers to learning? So what are the challenges that learners might experience? Once the AI assistant has received all these inputs, it will tailor a learning experience to those responses. In this case, it's produced a table. It also has a series of UDL strategies that you can use for those particular activities. And if you're not really satisfied with what it's produced the first time, you can continue to chat to it to further refine that lesson plan in this case. So that's my quick demonstration. I hope you found that interesting. So we're just beginning to pilot this within the library, and we've received a lot of really positive feedback so far, particularly from people who are very new to designing a learning experience. They found it as a really accessible way to break down those frameworks in a way that's easy for them to understand. But I've actually heard that, Naseema, you're also working on developing lesson plans and rubrics using AI tools, and I'm really curious to hear what your approach is.
Yeah, thanks, Min. I was actually thinking it's really funny when you were sharing your screen. Great minds think alike. I did something a bit similar using ChatGPT for lesson plans, but I used Gagne's 9 events as the theory behind that and the 5 E's as well to help design a lesson plan. So as you said, a lot of the time we find that the lecturers are amazing subject matter experts. They're also time poor. So we need to basically give them some tools just to help streamline the kind of process of planning their lessons. So similar to you, it would ask them for the AQF of a specific unit, what the learning outcomes are, how much time they have, perhaps what tech they have available, so whether they have Padlet, whether they're using Moodle, and they'll try and integrate that to different modalities, so whether it's online, hybrid, etc. And we found that that really helps the lecturers or the unit coordinators draft something that they can start to play with and refine. Other one is rubrics. So we're all very busy redesigning our assessments at the moment in the age of generative AI. So helping with rubrics, again, that used to take me ages when I used to do unit development. So going through a set of questions. So whether it's what's the AQF, what's the learning outcomes, a little bit about the task itself, and then helping draft. So is it a group work? Are referencing? Is research important? And I guess making it more specific as well, because sometimes rubrics can be very generic. So defining what is excellent critical analysis or very good analysis. So making it a little bit more quantifiable where it's appropriate to do that. What else do I do? I'm trying to think. Lots of quizzes. So we've got a GPT to help staff draft quiz questions. So again, using something very specific, but we have Moodle as our LMS, so we can import question banks and refresh them on a regular basis. So it might be that we can create question banks in Aitken or GIFT format so that we're not always using the same ones. And that helps then to create a text file that can be imported to our LMS. And we have a really big question bank there that they can randomize. What else have we got? From a student's perspective, I've developed a GPT for students that are drafting research proposals, and that takes them through each step. So it helps them to refine their idea from focus to what's the aim of their research, how are they going to go about collecting their data, making them think about ethical considerations as well. So it's also supporting students. And I think the feedback we've got from that is that the students found it really useful and less intimidating, which is nice. And again, a little bit multimodal, which I know Eleanor has done loads of work on. So I'll hand over to Eleanor on that.
Cool, great. Thank you, Naseema. That's amazing. Such a thorough and vast body of work. So hi everyone, I'm Eleanor, as mentioned. So I actually work as more of like a learning technologist, even though my background is also in learning design. So I bring a kind of strong focus on accessibility for neurodiverse learners and using universal design learning principles and UX to ensure that like students and academics can engage with the material in multiple ways. So for me, I'm really into AI literacy in higher education, and I personally feel that it's less about mastering all of these new tools that come out and more about building that confidence behind it. So I primarily work with helping staff who then help students understand how to use AI responsibly, effectively, and creatively. It's the next stage of digital literacy, and it's really becoming essential in how we teach and learn. So why does it matter to support the educators? So we often focus on how students are using AI, but our academics are just as important in this conversation and sometimes often left behind. And if the staff don't feel confident, then they won't integrate these tools meaningfully into their teaching. So one of the core skills and often the primary skills with any kind of form of AI is prompting. So that's kind of one of the bones that I really focus on. So just like we all had to learn how to use a search engine back in the early days of when Google first came out, staff now need to learn how to frame the right questions for AI effectively. So again, not just using it like a search engine, but really learning how to guide it. So prompt engineering is something that is really important and often overlooked. So for example, a lecturer might use prompting to repurpose their own content, and that's something that we're doing at the uni, like turning lecture notes into a bank, like you mentioned, Naseema, a bank of practice quiz questions that they can then upload to Blackboard, or, you know, reshaping a dense article into a set of like discussion prompts for class. What I've found when I kind of work with staff one-on-one or even hosting workshops is they slowly build their confidence as that kind of mask of AI mystery is disappears slowly through each session. Alongside prompting, there's the opportunity to introduce the staff to various AI tools that can help make their content more engaging and interactive and boost their kind of participation scores and make the students really engage with the content. So we've used a couple of AI-driven platforms like NotebookLM or Adobe Podcasts. So that automatically generates summaries of lectures and turns them into podcasts or two speakers discussing the content that's been uploaded. Students use this for like revision, and often they say they listen to them when they're trying to find a car park at uni. So it's a great way to kind of maximize their time. And again, like these kinds of tools really help move learning resources from those more passive written notes to interactive, and they can support students with different learning needs. So be that like accessibility requirements of like transcripts on the screen of lecture notes, or just students who really need to catch up quickly and need to intake a lot of information. It's just really exciting to see this content opening up in new ways. And again, it's about using support for students to help use AI critically. So the risk is that they just consume these AI outputs and don't think about what's being presented to them, but we want them to actually understand and critically analyze what's happening with hallucinations and fabrications, and we want it to be a scaffolded tool in their use, so not a replacement, and show them how to evaluate that AI generated material. You want to be able to spot errors or bias and use it responsibly and ethically and still keep that brain working. So overall, like when the staff are confident and transparent about their own use of AI, it creates a good model for the students. And, you know, it's emphasizing that AI isn't about shortcuts or replacements. It's about utilizing it and using it well. So for me, it all comes back to AI literacy as a confidence builder. And if we invest in building AI literacy for our staff, we help empower their teaching practice. And we also prepare students for a future where these tools will be everywhere. And it should be about that kind of process of augmentation and amplifying creativity, accessibility, and just engagement across the overall learning experience, which hands over nicely into that kind of process of design thinking with Shush. I believe you've kind of touched upon that yourself in your work.
Thanks, Eleanor. Let me share my screen. Just prepared a few slides on design thinking. So, yeah, as a practitioner of design thinking, and to date, I am teaching design thinking to my students. And there is so much of AI, right? Everybody's so much hyped about it. So how does AI fit into design thinking, problem solving, or even different aspects of steps of design thinking? First, let's start understanding what is design thinking. Design thinking is a human-centered process to solve problems, wicked problems, by engaging with humans, understanding their needs, behaviors, motivations, their perspective, which falls into empathize stage. Then, as we move into define stage, we start synthesizing that information. And through empathy, we try to clear and formulate a good human centered problem statement. After that, in ideate, we generate as much of creative solutions and ideas to the defined problem. In prototype, we create tangible, scaled down versions of ideas to test and get user feedback. Um, in test phase, we actually go and meet users and gather feedback, and through our prototypes and refine our solutions. So this is 5 step, and this was developed by IDEO, um, a design firm. Design thinking has also taken a lot of various forms today: double diamond methodology, IBM design thinking, or Google design thinking, sprints. So there are different ways. Um, so how does AI fit into this? AI can do 4 things for today: us augment, accelerate, analyze, and adapt. Augmenting human creativity, accelerating the feedback cycles and iteration cycles, analyzing through data-driven insights and for better creative decisions. And adaptation is continuously learning and again developing itself, getting better and better each day. So in every stage, AI has created its own area. For example, in empathy, you can have AI-powered research. In define, today with different AI tools, you can recognize different patterns, themes, insights, which helps us, understand human analysis or human sentiments, or different things. In ideate stage, we can use ideation AI for brainstorming. In prototype, you can rapidly prototype through prompt engineering. I will show a few examples of that. And testing. Yeah. Let's dive into one of the stages of how AI can augment in empathy stage. So in AI, for example, let's have a look at discovery and planning. Human aspect is defining the research goals and objectives, but what we can augment is creating research questions. AI can augment literature review a bit, and then secondary research and competitor analysis. But human, when we need to talk to our users or customer base, we need to do the recruitment planning um, through a human lens. And so, in different stages, today we have sort of come to a conclusion that how AI and human-centered designers can work together. Not this is also true in learning experience design, I believe, because there's a lot of overlap how design thinking and agile models or different LXD models work. My knowledge is very less in LXD, but as I'm teaching, as I am, making my students learn through AI, apply design thinking or UX design through AI, I'm also sort of getting there. So these are few examples how you can augment AI in design thinking, thematic analysis or usability metrics and things like that. So in few of the projects, what I have done is I can give some examples. For example, this was a workshop that we conducted with parents, and these are the kind of sticky notes that is generated. So what does AI does for it? We copy paste all these sticky notes into any tool like Claude GPT, and you give them a persona template. Say, for example, this is a persona template I want. You upload that persona template, copy paste all that data, and tell the any LLM model to generate that persona template for you. Yeah. And even in customer journey maps. But the crux of what I'm trying to say today is this is all embedded in real human data, real human interviews that have, they have inputted all this data. So that part should always be human, but these are the parts that can be augmented through AI. For example, if you are if there is so much of data that is going on, then how do you collect this data and convert into the stages of the customer journey map? Copy paste it in any LLM model, give them a structure, and it will augment for you. So these are two examples of how AI can augment design thinking and create all that refined data, persona, journey maps, or even service blueprints for you. There was another app that I developed through a prompt engineering. This was a fun project that I did. Was developing a slang Aussie slang tool for people who do not know Aussie slang. So it was a fun tool that I did. So for example, you can say greetings. So what are the words that I get? Home related. I am still I'm still developing the sounds as per Aussie language. But the power of AI today is that through uh, prompt engineering, you can develop these tools. I do not say that it will be sort of, completely uh, take away the human aspect of it, but these are some prototyping tools that you can generate. Yeah, just to quickly end it. So today there is augmentation, but there's good data around that AI will not replace us. AI will only augment the human uh, capacities in creative jobs. Thank you. Over to Mark. I will stop sharing now.
Thanks, Sush. I want to follow up with what you were talking about with the personas, because I used that recently with my class. I'm going to share my screen now. I was doing some research in this area just the last couple of days, and I found that it was a little bit bombarding because there were so many options. You should be able to see my screen now. In a everyday version, we needed three personas. So we came up with these three very different people, and this was a talking point. So instead of using stock imagery, I just used, I think these were done in Firefly, but I was able to type in pretty much exactly the type of learner or, sample learner that we wanted. So I can see that working really well, your ideas. But this type of territory, as you can see, I'm not going to look at all of those, but I found there's so many options, and this is the one thing that people are jumping in on with AI is this sort of generating media. And so what I wanted to just show you is I thought I'd be very clever. I'm not going to show all of this, but I'll just press play. Is she going to work?
Thanks, Mark. Let's begin. Artificial intelligence is rapidly changing the way we create media, giving us tools that make images, videos, audio, and even interactive content faster and more accessible than ever before.
I think that's my cue to press pause on this AI generated speaker. But essentially, I thought, I'll just put my feet up and I'll just let the computer do all the work. So this is a little intro as to what sort of media is possible. So this was done in Synthesia, which I've used a few times, and I do like it a lot. It's very similar to this other one. I'll just press play.
Welcome to Introduction to Public Health. Public health is all about protecting and improving the health of people and communities.
Now, it's easy to generate this sort of media, but maybe I'll talk in a few minutes about some of the issues involved. But it is from someone that's seen media generation over several years. This is just mind-blowing, really, that you can. One of you mentioned about the, I think it was Notebook LM, and you can create a podcast. And then this I looked at recently, which was Storybook. So I created a little storybook. I'm popping around all over. I think it's in here, Gorilla. Little. So the computer wrote the story and generated the images. Again, I'll talk about some of the issues and the critical thinking. I know Dan's got some ideas about critical thinking, but just in terms of just sheer media generation, it's like mind-blowing. This is one I looked at about a month ago, which is all about video, and it does the storyboards. It does pretty much everything that a short video requires. And then I looked at this just this morning, 11 Labs, and I had a little poem, and then I got it to read it out.
It cracks, it soars, it carries sorrow like a stone in water, or laughter light as pollen.
With an Australian accent. I'll play you this one. This is a bit disturbing.
This is a prevalent security measure in modern office buildings.
Okay, I think you've seen enough. It's basically I've uploaded my own photograph. And then this I looked at just this morning as well. This is a bit controversial because this is music and singing. So it's completely just generated. So this is all media, audio, images, photographs, video. So it's all up for grabs. And as learning designers, we know that media is really important part of what we're about. Whoop. I didn't mean to share that little Zoom chat. This is something I was working on last year. I needed some images of medical professionals, healthcare professionals. So this is in Canva, I think, but there's also Adobe Firefly. A lot of us would be already familiar with all of these. I think I might cap it at there because I guess there's so many options, and all of us would be familiar with, using this sort of territory or these sort of tools in this territory. And then there's just more and more and more. It's just like I've found it to be a little bit overwhelming. To me, it's about, well, what's the purpose of the media? So I'd be very interested to hear what Dan has to say about some of these sort of issues and some of the other broader issues about AI in education and AI with learning design.
Certainly, Mark. I mean, it is a wonderland out there. All of these medias, all of these tasks that used to take quite a long period of time. I mean, they're familiar tasks, they're familiar outputs in some ways, but they used to take so much time and effort. The AI tools available make this so much easier, so much faster in many regards. Not always quite as good, but certainly very efficiently made. So there's this efficiency dividend. And when we talk about AI and its effect on learning design, a lot of the administrators particularly look at the ways in which we can do that much work that much faster. What I'm going to talk about with my little pocket is not merely about augmenting, as many of us have touched on, but also about how we can take, I guess, things we couldn't do previously and expand in that direction as well. What are we going to do with this dividend we've been paid by AI with our time? And there's many things we used to want to do as learning designers, but we didn't have the time or resources to do. So some of these videos are a great example of that, Mark. But what I'll talk about, and I'll share my screen here, is one of my favorite learning experiences is branching scenarios. And many people have used Twine and various other interactive tools to craft these beautiful interactive stories where you go in and you do one thing and something happens, and it's basically an unfolding storyline. I'll share my slides and we can have a very rapid transition through them. So what I'm going to talk about is how I've used AI, and again the Cogniti tool from Sydney University, love that, thank you Danny Lou, to create, I guess, not merely a role play experience for students, but a branching role play that is guided in a specific direction. And the problem we're trying to solve here is more professional scenarios. So when we're preparing people for industry, there's a big bridge between being a student and actually being out there doing a task. And particularly for critical areas like nursing and some of the other professions that have, pretty serious consequences for not doing your job properly, it's pretty hard to put students out there and expect them to not make mistakes. So in this scenario, we had to find a solution that was authentic and immersive, available online, adaptable over time, inexpensive, and trained students in clinical and communication skills. We looked at various solutions, a traditional choose your own adventure, but people have been chatting with AI like you wouldn't believe. It seems to be a new and familiar way people are starting to embrace this technology, and particularly having that sort of conversational experience. So could we roll these things all together was really the question. And the initial answer was no. No, it's too dangerous having an AI give medical advice. So what we hatched on was actually to flip the roles and have the AI act as a patient and the students as experts in a scenario. So we used Cogniti, which is a great tool, and I recommend checking out their website. And what we had is basically a 3-stage scenario. We first got the students into the first of the stages and took them through basically 3 structured scenarios where we introduced, it was a neonatal ward, and the students had to figure out how to deal with mum and her baby. There's a few examples of chat here. Essentially, the scenario had to be authentic and the kind of problems that students would typically face. We used a lot of the procedures from the hospital manual, and to make it as authentic as possible, used that as RAG training data so that the chatbot could sort of refer to actual things that students had to do in scenario. And we had to really sort of tell the AI not to do certain things too, because it mostly keeps on track, but when you're creating an entire scenario, role players can go in all sorts of different sort of directions. So we used Danny Lou's RTRI prompting framework, which some of you might be familiar with, and basically engineered a series of great prompts that took us through, I guess, a scenario where the role was set, the task was defined, the requirements and the instructions were all prompted into a series of little scenarios, and a string of expected responses was also created as well. So that helped guide and keep the role play experience on rails, if you like. So the academics loved it. They thought this is, a new wonderland of experience, and so did the students, which was a happy outcome. So by combining these, we've got some great options there for students as they try and find their way in these professional scenarios. And in these scenarios, I guess you mentioned, Mark, critical thought. It's one of the bugbears of AI. What are your thoughts on critical thinking? It's one of these things we struggle with, isn't it?
It is, yes, but it's very central. I find it's very central. And when I'm teaching learning design students, I always like to have that kind of like a sensible lens for the possibilities are huge, but then always having a sensible lens. So you had mentioned this idea of authenticity, and I can see that's highly relevant for healthcare professionals. But in some learning areas, that authenticity maybe is not so crucial. So that's a really tangible example of like critical thinking as learning designers for, say, media a selection or generation or branching scenarios. It's this idea of scrutinizing, maybe, is this going to be best for our learners, and why, And so, and I guess there's like unlimited answers to that, but I think that professional dialogue is really important. And it's sometimes the tools are so dazzling that sometimes people get seduced by the possibilities, and then they forget that it's actually not that fit for purpose. It's not going to meet the needs of the learner. I want to share my screen and just show you a single image. This is the image. It's been in my brain for about 25 years. This image here, you can see the people on the track. When I first discovered this thing called stock imagery, I thought, oh, one day maybe I'll get to use that image. And then I wondered who would use that and when. And because it just seemed like it lived in this pretend land. And this may be not AI generated, but I guess with a lot of the AI generated media, I think, who's going to use that? It's not actually that good. So I guess to me, it underscores the skill of critical thinking as really valuable for a learning designer, as well as other roles, teachers, and, but I mean, I guess that I don't want to be too judgmental about that silly, business competition. It does depict business competition, but I guess you get a lot of these sort of elements. And then that's why I like to scrutinize these media generating, tools to see if they're fit for purpose, because we have to pass a critical judgment on behalf of our academics or whoever we're creating our fabulous courses for. And so, and I did have a whole sequence of images revolving around lemon trees and lemon kind of fruit and flowers for different audiences, different purposes. There was chemistry and acids and bases, and then there was other audiences for, I think it was When Life Gives You Lemons, for adult literacy, and idioms for English language. But anyway, I could talk I feel really passionate and enthusiastic about use of AI. So I'm interested to hear what other people, how do they approach this sort of thing, like challenges, or I don't know, they sort of, where is everyone placed?
From my perspective, I think we're the quality control. So there's still the human element that is quality control. So you can create a podcast from something like HeyGen or NoTLM, and you've got to check for the quality because it's not always there. So there's that instance. So yes, it's great in terms of providing us with resources, but we still need to be checking those, I guess. Anyone else? Any other thoughts from anybody else on that one?
Yeah, I agree, because so many of the times people think that like maybe AI can do my research for me, or maybe AI can do all this for me, but it's exactly that. It's not replacing the skill set, because at the end of the day, it's what separates us from AI, our critical thinking, our ability to evaluate. And just because it can output something, like, is that of any use? And I think the kind of takeaway is knowledge is power. So on both sides of the coin, understanding how it works and then understanding what it can do and whether it's worth taking that or not. Yeah.
I completely agree with Eleanor and Asima and what we all are saying about AI, but I come from a different perspective. Like, I've seen my colleagues, my friends, and all people in the globe losing jobs, layoffs in last 3 to 4 years, and today I am teaching. How do I prepare my students for this challenging industry? So I come from that perspective, as a practitioner who is trying to survive a job, and also preparing the next set of generation who is completely like out of, they don't know anything what's happening in the industry. And there's this AI that, comes suddenly one day, and my partner tells me, go prepare for the AI, you are losing it out. And then last 6 months I started out, all this AI thing, and then I go back, the way my mother had to in 1998, she had to go from a steno. She used to use a typewriter, and then she moved on to computers. I think it was a full shift for her. She survived yesterday for next 20 years in the job. I think the AI is also something like that. It's a tool, and I think in 2025 we are going to see what are the failures, and 2026 will sort of define what is the place of AI in the market, or how it is sort of, how it is augmenting our jobs, how we are using this as a tool, and how we can prepare students. There's so much of ethics around there. There's so much knowledge that's getting generated. Even today, people like Commonwealth Bank, they just remove 45 employees to replace their customer service AI bots. Now they're apologizing. So that's where I come from. Like, how do I prep my students for this next set of jobs? Yeah, over to you, Min. Yeah, Dan.
Just going to speak briefly to your point, because I think it's a really great one, which I touched on briefly. This augmentation that we are able to do, this efficiency dividend that we get, it's not the AI that's necessarily losing jobs for people. It's how AI is being administrated by administrators that want to do things more cheaply and fast, but don't have necessarily an eye for the quality or the ways in which AI can redefine the new and exciting part of what AI can do for us. And I think some of the work, particularly out of Sydney University, Min, Danny Liu's Cogniti, starts to touch on some of these great new ways we can redefine what learning is and the kind of experience we can offer to our students.
That's such a good point. I've put together an agent that helps students. I teach hospitality, so helps students deal with complaints with different personas. So it might be a business person who's, kind of angry and needs to check into the hotel, and going through the role play based on a specific framework in the background that will run through that role play, very much like you with the different personas, but will then give them feedback afterwards. So I think that's worked really well. And certainly in my classes, I got good feedback, and we gamified it so they get points for the different learning outcomes, and they get a little trophy, and that added an element of fun. Has anybody else done that?
I've touched a few gamification elements. It's great that it enables that, isn't it? Yeah, it's fantastic. Great work, Miss Emma.
I mean, I know that AI can be really positive for a lot of neurodiverse and neurodivergent learners, especially. Like, it's been almost like a disability aid in things just like email replies and everyday, that executive functioning in areas that are limited. AI has just been monumental in kind of changing that scape. So that it's also has this kind of positive after effect in using it in ways that people don't think of as well. So, yeah.
Thanks so much, everyone. I'm so inspired by all the stories you've shared today. We've heard about lesson plans and rubrics from Nasima. We've heard support for educators and students, and helping them with developing their AI literacy skills. Design thinking from Sush, media creation, and the lovely branching scenarios from Dan. And I think I hope that everyone can take something away from our conversation today. It's not an exhaustive list, because we could really be talking all afternoon about this. And not only that, it's ever evolving. And I think while it can be a scary time, I think also it's a really exciting time for us as learning designers to really use our special powers and to partner with educators to do things for our learners and to support them in the best way possible. So I really want to thank you all for your time today. It's just so wonderful that we met only a few weeks ago, and today we come together to talk about all the wonderful things that you do. So thank you. I think everyone did so well. Very, very natural delivery. Everyone looked really engaged, nodding. Great learners, everyone. Great learners.
Isn't that the TV thing they do when they do a TV show? It's called the Noddies. Yep. You do the...
Yep. I didn't even have to prompt you. You were all nodding. So And I'm sorry if my eyes were darting around. I was trying to keep to time, so hopefully I don't look like I'm not paying attention.
Wow, you were great.